Tackle empowered myself and my team to be able to self-serve, right? They educated, enabled, and I got to a point where I was an expert in marketplace and co-sell. And then it very much became Tackle was that reliable support partner.
Welcome to Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market, the series where hosts Erin and Patrick Riley share the essential stages of the Cloud GTM maturity model to start, optimize, and grow your company's revenue through the cloud. They've helped countless ISVs tackle the ins and outs of their Cloud GTM motion. And in each episode, they're sharing those success stories from the people who have put them into place. Because ultimately, this way of thinking is the future, and the future is now.
Hey everybody, on this episode of Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market, Erin and I talked to Rebecca Spataro from Snyk, and we talk her through the maturity model, the multiple stages that she's taken to different companies, and we hear her feedback and best practices specifically around how to build that foundation and then what tools she's implementing to be successful at scale. There are two things that you're going to want to stay tuned and listen for. One is her marketplace hotline, and two is her sales play around renewals. So stay tuned and learn more.
Hi, Rebecca.
Erin, it's great to see you.
Thanks for joining us on our podcast, Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your professional career. I know we can see it on LinkedIn, but I always love hearing the actual story and the journey and how it all connects together.
Absolutely. So like many folks in tech, I started as an inside sales rep at a resell partner a long, long time ago. So, making 100 calls a day, trying to get those end users to have a conversation and book a meeting. And I like to think that I graduated to now calling on cloud partners, partner reps that are, always excited to hear from an ISV and start kind of building that better together story together.
Yeah. And before you were at Snyk, you were at Veeam.
Yeah. So I spent about 2.5 years at Veeam, and we were 100% join at the hip with Microsoft. Got an entire education in Microsoft Azure, how those teams go to market, and really how to build our backup and recovery story with the likes of Office 365. And, there were multiple sales plays, but we got to be their partner of the year 3 years in a row. It was a really exciting time under the One Commercial Partner program. And then when I made the transition to Snyk, along with my current CEO and so many of our executives at Veeam, it was transitioning and learning how Amazon and Google go to market and their co-sell programs. So it gave me a really well-rounded view of how the hyperscalers go to market with ISV partners.
That's so awesome. I think that's a great segue right into our first question, which is the things we focus on and what we need in the beginning evolve as we build and drive adoption and move towards a more programmatic, at-scale go-to-market initiative. This isn't your first time helping a software company build partnering with the clouds as a route to market. You spent some time at Veeam helping them build their Microsoft partnership. So you leave Veeam, you head over to Snyk to help them with their cloud strategy and partnerships. This is your opportunity to help Snyk go faster. So what were some of the things you knew you had to quickly go do at Snyk that were going to be instrumental in establishing and building adoption of your cloud partnership?
If I think about my past life at Veeam and really what co-selling and cloud partnerships was all about at the time, it was coming together and accelerating, the time to close an opportunity. It was co-sell. And just the last 4 or 5 years, we've all seen and lived the evolving of co-sell into marketplace, right? So it was in the past a nice to have, if the deal eventually landed in marketplace and transacted via that route to market. It was more about the co-selling and the collaboration. And while that's still obviously such a strong and powerful key component, marketplace has become that super exciting. we see the growth numbers of end users leaning into marketplace, and the growth is exponential. I think it was almost a luxury that I got to step into the role at Snyk at a time where marketplace was really taking over. And as soon as they went through that process, it's like they would see the light and they would run and talk to all their peers and they would socialize how easy it was to transact in that nature. So, walking into my role at Snyk, it was very much enablement. It's winning the hearts and minds of all of the sellers and the sales leadership. And, I know we'll get into it later, but, the other important and impactful stakeholders across the business. But I would say number one, it was enablement. It was starting small, but winning fast and socializing the heck out of those wins.
Yeah. And like going and getting your stakeholders and keeping those stakeholders engaged as stakeholders.
Absolutely. And if I think about Veeam, we weren't a SaaS solution at Veeam, right? So it was really in the hands of the customers to pick up those workloads and put them in their cloud of choice. At Snyk, we're 100% integrated SaaS solution. So I knew day one, having the support of a company like Tackle, I didn't know how to get started on Marketplace. I didn't know how to create a listing at the time.
Now you're at Snyk and it's like, we're going to lead with Marketplace. So you're like, okay, that's a new one for me. That's a new muscle I've got to go build.
Yeah. So while I understood the value prop and the go-to-market strategy, I didn't know anything about the logistics, right? And in the back end process and how that would work. We linked up with Tackle very early on, as soon as we knew that we wanted to list at the time on all three marketplaces. And Tackle coached us and walked us through what those listings would look like, got us onboarded, and then to this day acts as that back end engine to get our end users registered on the product so they can start using Snyk as quickly as possible. But also at the time, the cloud companies weren't natively sending out those notifications. And we learned very early on how reliant we would be on those notifications to book the deals. And from an internal rev rec standpoint, accounting, finance, those notifications were so incredibly important. And that's what Tackle brought us early on.
And so you're trying to build trust in this new route to market of using the marketplaces. You need visibility to what's going on. So having those notifications really helped reinforce building trust in this process and this experience that then helped further endorse that onboarding and enablement that you were doing.
And speaking of visibility too, if you're talking about juggling 2, even 3 public marketplaces, it's a lot of toggling, right? That's very, very confusing, inundating, and being able to have the Tackle dashboard, all of the tiles. So I'm able to easily go in, my team is able to easily access that single pane of glass I can see all of my offers that are out there and historically, or I can drill down into AWS, Google, or Azure and simply see in one place where all of my transactions and, are they pending? Are they accepted? So it's ease of use.
Yeah, you need that hub to see across all the marketplaces in one central place.
Rebecca, you mentioned that enabling certain teams within your organization was crucial for your building adoption phase. Can you share some insights as to what teams those were? And then specifically when it comes to like the back end, the rev rec, deal desk finance, how did you enable those type of teams as well?
I talked about early on enabling the sales org, and so much of that message was driven by the ease and the quickness of marketplace, right? It's easy and it's fast. And I set an expectation at that time that, when your customer's ready to buy, we can have a marketplace deal built out in minutes. And I was really my own worst enemy in that statement because at the time I was the single shop, the one woman band for building private offers, right? So if it was APJ or EMEA, that didn't leave a lot of time to sleep. So I quickly found that the best way to go was to enable our field finance team and our deal desk. So the global deal desk team became an extension of the cloud team focused on private offers in region, in time zone, so we could really scale and bring our sellers and our end users the best experience possible. As an extension of bringing in the deal desk and making them part of the process, we needed another Slack channel. So we built out the marketplace hotline. So, we've got our private offer request line and we've got a workflow built out in there for sellers that aren't super comfortable and confident in what's needed yet to create that offer. You can't miss a beat. You've got to leave us the billing ID or, the account ID, the tenant ID at the time, what have you. There was a space for that. Who is the contact responsible for accepting the offer? What is their email, right? So it was foolproof. And that made it very efficient for us to then work as a team, leave a quick set of eyes emoji on there just to let the other teammates know that we had this one. And right now we're in the last week of the quarter. And, it's all hands on deck. We're watching the line. We're collaborating as a team. Even though it's a different org, those are stakeholders that I heavily rely on to keep this train moving and not miss a beat at critical times like quarter end.
So enabling other folks. Were there other stakeholders that you felt were critical that you needed to get on board when you're in that kind of beginning stages of establishing and building adoption of your cloud go-to-market strategy?
There's always the obvious folks, right? We're always so focused, whether you sit in business development or alliances or the go-to-market, the sales org, you're so focused on sales and winning over that group that it tends to just take the majority of the focus. Sales leadership, revenue officer, that group. We talked about deal desk and field finance, and think about even legal.
Who's not the obvious ones that you were like, oh, that was a critical stakeholder that really helped me unlock going to market with the cloud, or like unlock supporting my partnership?
Legal, finance, and accounting. Those were three that weren't obvious to me right away. As we started to scale in our marketplace journey, right? And we're starting to get the attention of other business units, and they're saying, wow, we're generating a lot of revenue here. We need to put some additional eyes on this. If you think about AWS, going on 3 years ago when they came out with their standard contracts for marketplace, their SCMP. Prior to that new release, we hadn't been using their standard contracts. Once that came out, getting legal involved and starting to really peel back and look at our maybe sub 50K business, right? And seeing the amount of time and friction that our sales org was spent working with legal, and understanding that with some due diligence from that department, we could embrace this standard contract that's super familiar to so many of our end users and start leaning on that for efficiencies.
We see that too at Tackle, right? Like, we talked to our head of legal and she's like, every time it goes through the marketplace, we save the company X amount of hours that results in X amount of money. So like, the more you can go through the marketplace, the more cost efficient it is because you're not tapping on legal to do these things.
Again, you always want the face of marketplace to be easy and user friendly for the sales org. With the release of like vendor insights and, just Tackle's native insights dashboard where we can see all the clouds, we can see the fees and what's extracted there. And when we started bringing them together with those teams, and even at the different, cloud and marketplace events, we've brought them to events. And now, Erin, you got to meet our VP of Field Finance. We're bringing these people out now, and it's all about efficiency, right? When you start having those financial discussions about the impact of marketplace, and these are people you want to win over, strategy and ops and your CFO. So, just sharing the love, creating as many allies as possible. And if there's one learning, what I had done at Veeam versus what I've done here, I think it's easy to get caught up operating in a silo, right? The alliance team knows how to speak the language of the cloud partners and we know the buzzwords, right? But we can only get so far if you just keep it alliances and channel and cloud partners in that group, right? But as soon as you start empowering and bringing more people to the table and getting other organizations, other business units empowered, comfortable, confident in the talk track, that's where you start to scale and win.
Yeah, I was going to say that's when you move from like building adoption to really driving and scaling adoption of this cloud partnership as a meaningful route to market.
I know I struggled to get legal and finance on my team. I didn't have a great success coming out of that. You've had success doing this. Can you give some advice to those who may be in the establishing foundation phase or starting to build adoption on how to get out of the silo and specifically the legal, the finance? How do you get those personas on board? Obviously, you brought them to events and you're bringing them around, but how did you get them on board initially to buy into this process?
Back to the whole trial and error, right? It would get to for us just because we didn't know at the time, right? So it would be maybe a pain, right, would result in a success, right? There was an impact. So where I would have, accounting or finance chasing me, it was, well, there's got to be a better way, right? And just the sheer momentum and the scale, right? When you're doing millions and millions of dollars through the marketplace, people start to take notice and other groups want to get involved and say, how can my org make this more efficient, automated? If I even just go back to the beginning and we talked about how Tackle got us listed, Tackle was that back engine, but Tackle empowered myself and my team to be able to self-serve, right? They educated, enabled, and I got to a point where I was an expert in marketplace and co-sell. And then it very much became Tackle was that reliable support partner.
Our support team is amazing, right? Like the amount of support calls and being there for you, like that's one of our superpowers is like, we want to be right there with you lockstep, right?
Yeah. And I mean, people just get so accustomed to marketplace just works and the customer just has to click accept. Sometimes there's a snag. Sometimes somebody's logging in with the wrong credentials into the wrong buying account. And I don't always have visibility into that, right? So I can't tell you how many times at very critical times of the year and in the sales cycle, I'm pinging Tackle and I'm saying, can you just keep me honest? Tell me if this is active. Do you see this on your end? We got into a cycle for, I'd say, probably a couple years that it was a very reactive relationship. Like, I need this, Tackle responds. And then it went from, Tackle is the teacher to Tackle playing a support role to Tackle now as an innovation partner. And then we met at a reInvent a couple of years ago and you introduced Tackle Prospect and Tackle Co-sell. And it was, wow, okay, there's a next step. I'm not good, right? There's still so much more to do here. I feel like we've kind of grown up together, right? As we needed more, you built more.
As you are growing up and now you're moving out of the beginning stages into the scaling phases of maturity, there are new things to think about and new strategies to play. And I know you've done a couple cool things. Could you talk us through a little bit around what's kind of next? After we established the foundation, we laid the baseline, we enabled our teams. Now we're looking at how do we leverage more data? How do we start to scale and drive more efficiencies? What plays can we involve? Can you talk us through like what that looks like in your business right now?
Yeah. And you also like incubated some really cool ideas. And so share with us like some of those ideas that you incubated.
The story I love the most, right, is when you all gave me access to just being able to dump thousands of domains into Tackle Prospect and generating these 3 cloud scores. What a fun new toy to play with. I had marketing coming for me. I had sellers coming for me. Marketing wanted me to score all these accounts for ABM campaigns and different target campaigns. And sellers were coming to me one at a time saying, oh, will you score my account list? And that created a whole additional need for enablement and what did these scores mean and what went into these. But something we did at the end of 2022 is we were looking at our renewals business. And, I had our business development reps on the marketplace side at the cloud partners chasing me for what felt like forever to start putting renewals through marketplace. And at the time, it just wasn't the best business decision for Snyk given the fees associated. But just to proactively share our renewals wasn't where we were at the time until fees started to decrease, right? So if we think about the amount of business we do through the AWS marketplace, having a very, very minimal fee to start creating a renewals engine seemed like a really cool idea. So that December 2022, I took all of our worldwide renewal pipeline for the following year because we knew we had access to future dated agreements. So, how can we leverage marketplace functionality to close out these deals early because we know we can book them at time of acceptance. So we scored the entire year's renewals and we have a renewals team. So I took each rep, I sent them all their renewals with their scores, and I said, we're simply going to do outreaches and we're going to very proactively ask for the customer's billing ID. And once they send that billing ID, we will turn around a private offer for acceptance. Now, if they say that's not their preferred route to market, so be it, right? But we're taking a very proactive approach. And we saw such a tremendous increase in our marketplace business by doing that. And we had really happy customers, right? Because there's so much value for the customer to transact through the marketplace. So that's become just a routine engine for us. And we're working with Tackle to find ways to really continue to automate and make it very, very simple to just send out offers proactively to customers under a certain threshold.
I love that. So things that helped unlock marketplace as a route to market for you was first, we needed the cloud providers to lower their fees and give you the ability to do future dated agreements and flexible spending. And then you use Tackle Prospect to then unlock which customers would we want to reach out to initially to see like, hey, we think that you're a likely candidate to renew Snyk through the AWS marketplace. And so you kind of incubated this whole motion. I like to think about them as like campaigns, right? You created a renewal campaign or a renewal route to market. You're looking at like customers that are 50K renewal base. And now you're integrating Tackle Salesforce app. So you're going to be able to bring this play to life inside of Salesforce and really like scale it out to the entire organization.
Absolutely. And what I love about the Salesforce integration piece is, again, the whole operating in a silo. In the past, right, it was pulling these reports from Salesforce, doing bulk uploads, getting the info out there. And oftentimes sales reps would come back and feel like they had lost some control in the process, right? Oh, you shared this. I have a rep reaching out to me and I didn't reach out. How do they know? I think we've all kind of lived through some of these scenarios, especially with those enterprise accounts. So I love that Tackle Co-Sell allows us to give that control back to the sellers and they're really owning that process. And it cuts out so many steps in the middle, right? Seller to seller and taking it from there. So
yeah, you could take that renewal opportunity list view, set it up inside of Salesforce. It probably already exists, right? Inside of Salesforce, integrate Tackle prospect data right there and like start to really bring to life this workflow in Salesforce and maybe even work with your Salesforce admins on like, we incubated this play. Here's the process. Now we have Tackle Salesforce app inside of Salesforce. How do we take this manual process and start to bring it to life inside of Salesforce? And what are the intersection points where we could actually drive automation? Like, could I set up a custom workflow that just automatically runs this initiative and gets it to a certain point so that I can take out some of that manual work, but also still have the right intersection points to say, like, I need to review this, I'm going to look at this, or I need to do something here before we do the next thing.
And I mean, as you talk through this, Erin, right, there's still so much more work to be done on our side. We just had a call last week with our Salesforce admins and the Tackle team, right? We've got executive sponsorship now, which is phenomenal, saying, hey, we have access to all this cool stuff. Why aren't we maximizing the value? I feel like it was on us for a while to take further advantage of the tools that we had access to. Now we're locked in, and I'm just really excited to see how far this can take us, just unlocking this automation and this efficiency.
Yeah, and the amount of data you're going to capture now too, all in one place. You can start to make additional sales plays around, oh, do we have competitive renewals? And what's our win rate on competitive renewals that we've now taken through Marketplace? And we can start to get trends and spend more time with in the front end, analyzing as a sales rep, hey, I know that this customer is likely to go through Marketplace because I can see it on my opportunity. And I can also see that if I run a renewal through and there's a competitor involved, we've got a 90% win rate. And so for me, that's the exciting part, is to see how you can take that further going forward. So we'll be curious to see how that goes.
And I think that fits into like your theme. You said you have a rock this year at Snyk around automation and efficiency.
Yeah. So if we think about renewals, enablement, and partnerships are our three core priorities right now. And, obviously tackle plays a massive role in the partnership one. Enablement, the team is always willing to step in and do additional enablement, join QBRs, workshops, but the renewals one, and that's where we're really looking to turn this into a well-oiled machine, right? How do we take the time we're spending today and just get smarter about how we approach this business? We're not set up right now as a company to really leverage the self-serve options through the marketplace. So we're very much reliant on Tackle to, help us define what this looks like and just drive that efficiency with our renewal business.
That's awesome. Okay, so we talked about establishing the foundation, building adoption, and now moving over to doing things more at scale and really driving adoption and creating that scale motion, which fits into like that automation and efficiency goals that you have at Snyk. You're having so much success with your cloud strategy. What are some of the things you're focused on outside of this renewal play? What are some of the things you're focused on now to help you keep up with that success that you're having?
I joke that all the problems we have right now are great problems to have, right? It's just all about how do we keep up, but how do we continue to innovate and take advantage of all the programs out there, right? Because it's one thing to keep up, but we need to keep getting better at the same time. And that's where we're just heavily reliant on all these new technologies that Tackle's offering that maybe we haven't leaned into yet, right? So we're just starting to dabble in the co-sell and bridge that. And we're going through an update process right now. And if we think about the manual hours from teammates that go into, the pipeline hygiene today, the management, the launching and closing of opportunities, the registrations, right? There's just so much of a manual strain on my team. I can't even imagine once we've fully unlocked the co-sell and that's all just being streamlined. And something that I'm sadly and bizarrely excited about is just being able to close out ops, right? If it's closed in Salesforce, it's closed in Ace or Partner Center or what have you, right? And just alignment. I think just continuing to bring folks together, it can never hurt to forge a new relationship and start to drive, just new points of view and perspective and new strategy together.
Yeah, so you started with Marketplace and now you're starting to really bring online co-sell and really activate your co-sell strategy inside of Salesforce using our Salesforce app. That's really going to help you take this co-sell motion you've been doing manually and really start to do it at scale and more efficiently by using the Tackle co-sell Salesforce app. I love that.
Rebecca, there's a lot obviously on your plate. And as you've gone through different phases of maturity, that continues to change. Where we started with on the single point of failure, essentially, I'm doing everything, to now I have more cross-functional support. And then maybe we get some dedicated personnel. Where do you see yourself in Snyk in 2-3 years? How does this operationally look to the partnership? We've got deal desk managing functions. You've got sales managing like the day-to-day, the private offers, co-sell maybe. And then you've got more time for the actual partnerships work that you signed on to do. What does that evolution look like for you? Like, what's your vision for the next couple of years?
Snyk is very much leaning, like so many, into the ecosystem approach, right? So as we continue to forge relationships with traditional channel partners, GSIs, really triangulating the whole co-sell approach, right? So if we think historically it being ISV to cloud partner, well, how are we rounding that out and bringing in that solutions integrator, right, in the enterprise space? How are we making it a more inclusive experience to drive the best outcome for our end user, right? Because that's what's most important. So I'm thinking about programs and Snyk's committed in the next couple of years to become immediately a cloud first. It's not like if a customer mentions it, right? But this is a conversation we're having early on in the discovery stage of the sales process, because we've been very guilty, right, of marketplace coming in at the 11th hour as the hero to save a deal. And we know that marketplace is incredibly strategic for our customers, right? So we should be having these conversations early on. So we're very much focused on the enablement that plays into adding efficiency and strategy just to that co-sell process. And really looking, 2027, we're saying we are going to be a partner first organization, right? So whatever that indirect route to market may be, GSI, traditional channel, or marketplace, that is how we're going to market on every deal.
And so now you're going to continue to build the muscle, but by integrating all of these operations, prospect, marketplace, and co-sell into Salesforce, you're now going to take this muscle and say, hey, I want you to build this muscle inside of Salesforce, inside the system that you use, so that we can hit these goals that we have in 2027. If you don't integrate this into Salesforce and get that muscle going in Salesforce, your goals of being partner first, marketplace heavy in 2027, like I can't even imagine what that would look like if you had to do it manually.
I'd like to ask one big question that I think would be super helpful for everybody. If you could go back, I'm having conversations with our sales team a lot of times with our customers, and they're pulling me in, and our customers, a lot of them are bought in already and ready to go, but there's a couple that are still struggling to sell their leadership and sell the cross-functional units on, this is a channel that we should be in, and this is something I'm going to need your support in. What's the one or two things you think would be most impactful for an alliances or partnership leader who knows that there's value to be had there, but can't quite figure out the message to tell the rest of the business as to why we need to get here?
Two answers, one being specific to marketplace, ISV, end user, and one specific to tackle. Just think about the value prop and just kind of some key happenings throughout our journey early on. Eliminate the burden of the marketplace fees from your sales org. I can't stress how important that is, right? It is well worth it to the business because we know that this is how our prospects and customers want to buy. So being able to meet customers where they want to transact, and then not going all in with the EDP or the cloud commit story, right? I think it's super easy for sellers to latch on to the, oh, do you have a commit? Do you want to buy through marketplace? And it's an easy message. I get that. But if you think about at the end of the day, all the customers that transact through marketplace that don't have a commit, there's so many other use cases, right? And I can't tell you, as we do more globally, when we think of things like being able to pay a marketplace invoice in another currency, or being able to align invoicing to a strategic roadmap, you name it, just like there's discovery as part of the traditional sales process, there's discovery around why marketplace. So I would just urge other ISVs to not lock on to that cloud commit story as a deal breaker. There's other reasons and use cases there. From a tackle standpoint, I was guilty of dabbling. Early on, it would be associating offers in tackle. And then maybe I was just doing, net new deals in the tackle dashboard and platform, or I got very comfortable with AWS, but I'd still go to the Google portal for those, right? And it was a bad habit. And as I onboarded new teammates, the direction was do everything in tackle. You want that to be your single source of truth, your one-stop shop. It makes it so easy if you do everything in one place. And we are doing that now, right? Whether it's an agreement-based offer, whether it's a renewal, whether it's a CPPO, right? So I would say when you're onboarding, when you're bringing on new teammates, do everything in the tackle platform, because from a reporting standpoint, being able to have all your different cloud-specific marketplace deals in one place is invaluable.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your journey. It was so helpful for our audience to hear directly from their peers what you're experiencing and how you are trying to continue to unlock your cloud go-to-market strategy so that you can really continue to make that a meaningful route to market for your organization.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you again for having me.
That was such a great session with Rebecca and hearing her story of how she really implemented a few key initiatives that helped her really unlock her cloud go-to-market.
I think one of them was probably the stakeholders. Like, what did you learn about the stakeholders?
Yeah, I loved that she went for the not so obvious, like go get finance, go get accounting on board. And that really helped her in the earlier stages of building adoption so that she wasn't a single point of failure. She really got key stakeholders involved early on so that it could really help her continue to unlock her strategy.
Yeah, and she needed help, right? So selfishly, it's nice to hear, but she needed a resource like Tackle, and I was in her position. I did too, but that was super cool to hear her say as well.
Yeah, I loved how she kind of broke the partnership with Tackle into 3 phases for her. In the beginning, we were there helping her, enabling her and her team so that she could go enable others inside her organization. And then it transitioned to a more of a supporting role. We were there helping support her growth and her operations, and then evolving into being an innovative partner. So as we're innovating, she's then taking those innovations and continuing to integrate them into her strategy so that she can continue to drive more and more success in her cloud strategy.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of their scale now is going to hinge on like sales. And she talked about like a sales play and sales compensation and sales enablement. It's kind of cool to see that. And what did you think about when she talked around the sales organization being one of the key drivers for scale?
Yeah, and in order for that sales organization to be a key driver for her, really integrating the operations, prospect, marketplace, and co-sell into Salesforce is really going to take them from that next level to really get to scale and automation and efficiency that they're looking to grow their company. They have to implement these things in order to enable their entire organization.
That goes back to those first 2 points where we need more people to do more things. She can't be the only one doing everything. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening to today's Unlock Cloud Go-to-Market. I'm your host, Patrick Riley.
I'm your co-host, Erin Feiger.
And we will see you next time.
So pull up a chair, grab a notebook, and join us as we share the essential stages of the maturity model to start, optimize, and grow your company's revenue using the cloud. For more resources on executing your cloud go-to-market strategy, you can visit our website at tackle.io.